Hey folks, what's up? My name is Sir Medieval, and today I'll be bringing you my very first top games in a very long time. I was aiming for 10, but I didn't want to add games that I've never done any research on or had any contact with whatsoever just to fill the quota, and so I've reached up to 7. There is one game on the list though that I can say I haven't researched or touched up on nearly as much as the others, but I'll point that one out specifically once we get to it. This is going to be a fun list to make. 7. Kicking it off with number 7 with Fractured MMO. And yep, MMO is in the name. Fractured MMO is a dynamic open-world sandbox being developed by Dynamite Studios on the Unity engine, back-ended by Spatial OS. With $100,000 back via pledges in its Kickstarter, it features an isometric camera system, action combat, in-depth freeform leveling system similar to what you see in games like Path of Exile and Diablo, on a far less massive scale. This game is truly one that I'm excited about trying. I've done a brief overview video on this one before, and I can say after learning about it, it seems like it seeks to bring the good experiences we've had in games like Albion, the good experiences that is, Legends of Elyria, alongside older sandboxes like Mortal Online, Worm, and even Darkfall, while innovating to create something new. With the first alpha testing phase set to arrive in December and myself being a part of the content creator program, this is absolutely one I can recommend checking out and can't wait to try myself. 6. Next up on our list is Crowfall. With $4 million backed by pledges via its pledge package page alongside $21 million in total funding. By the way, before I begin, I should state that it was hard to place these games in any particular order due to the shifts in stats and how hyped people are, how much backing the game has, and how many people are actually playing/testing it currently in 2018. With that being said though, Crowfall seems like it's definitely one that people are hoping works out. Set to go into soft launch in 2019 more than likely, as per a recent announcement in June, stating that it's clear the game won't be reaching soft launch status in the year of 2018. Crowfall is a realm v realm v realm PvP MMO that features campaigns that can last anywhere from a month to a year. Similar to how Ren's Race to Ascension with the reckoning mechanic works, if they're still calling it that. The difference in Crowfall is that you have access to what's called a spirit bank, in which you can transfer items from campaign to campaign. You also have the Eternal Kingdoms, which stand apart from the campaigns and are the worlds that do not die. They also feature the player housing. On campaigns, however, your skill progression, everything you have on your character, along with the territory progression of the campaign, get reset. If your faction happens to win a campaign, you are able to get better rewards plus export even more items via the Spirit Bank. The Eternal Kingdoms allow you to trade items you've received during the campaign with other players, further solidifying the social interaction. Make sure to know which campaign you want to go with from the get-go, however. Each one will have different rule sets, and the harder campaigns will feature better risks/rewards. But once you choose them, you're locked into them until the end of them as well. This is a game I have backed and played recently, and in its current state, it still holds quite a bit of interest from the players, but the majority of people seem to be definitely waiting on the soft launch to come into play while jumping back in periodically between patches. If you're at all interested in Crowfall, I can say that you may not get a lot of hours out of it if you're looking for something new, with the issues with optimization, buggy classes, etc. But it's certainly worth keeping an eye on. 5. Here we go. Alright, coming in at number 5 is Star Citizen. I know. I wasn't sure where to put this game in on the list, but being the most backed crowdfunded MMO by a country mile with $193 million raised, over 2 million pledges alone, I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't include it. Being developed and published by Cloud Imperium Games, this is the game I pointed out in the beginning that I haven't done nearly as much research on or touched on as much as the others. In fact, in 2017, when Ashes of Creation, Chronicles of Elyria, and Star Citizen were really some of the most talked about crowdfunded game choices, despite the hype, Star Citizen was the first I decided to avoid. That being said, despite the controversy and it being branded Scam Citizen in many cases, they've finally begun showcasing more and more of how the game looks and is going to operate. The game is an upcoming space simulator MMO featuring trading, combat, and exploration, all in the final frontier, the infinite beyond. I say MMO loosely because their plans for the MMO version of this game were a little vague, even though it was advertised as it everywhere. As the description goes though, imagine a universe that combines the freedom of exploration, thrill of combat, and the unique challenges of building a life in space. Star Citizen puts the ultimate control in the hands of the player. Whether you're making your way out as a cargo hauler, exploring the vastness of space, or scraping out a living outside the law. You will navigate through a mixture of procedurally generated handcrafted worlds and interact with a variety of characters. This is one a lot of people in general were not ever sure was going to come out or come to fruition, but I was genuinely surprised when I was randomly searching on Twitch a month ago and found that a great deal of people were not only playing the game, but streaming it. They're actually still streaming it right now as well. The game is split into different sections as well. Star Citizen, which will be the main MMO version of the game, I believe, and Squadron 42, featuring the single-player version in which you play as a rookie Navy combat pilot in the Star Citizen universe. Despite anything about what anybody thinks of the game, if you feel at any point down the line that grinding pirates in asteroid fields in Elite Dangerous to try and buy an anaconda, or beaming rocks and plants and more rocks doesn't suit your fancy in No Man's Sky Next anymore, I actually love the No Man's Sky Next version, please don't hurt me, then maybe this might end up being the game for you. Maybe. Coming in at number 4, we've got quite the champion of a Realm v Realm PvP game, developing and maybe even competing at some point alongside Crowfall, Camelot Unchained. Being developed by City State Entertainment on their very own custom Unchained engine. Spearheaded by a designer of one of the OGs of the old school MMORPG, the Archeage of Camelot. Mark Jacobs brings to us the gritty and dark medieval world of Unchained, back with over at least $4 million in pledge package money alongside receiving a massive investment of $7.5 million earlier this year. I'd say it's safe to say that Camelot Unchained is punching left, right, and center to deliver us a proper old school mass PvP MMO that absolutely bleeds of innovation. One that I've also backed and playtested as well, currently in its beta 1 phase now after being delayed back in July, but I can honestly say that the game runs very well optimization wise, having been tested with hundreds if not thousands of bots in its world, and now hundreds of players on the battlefield at once. You should certainly not be worried about how this game feels in terms of FPS. I was stacking to about 80 to 100 steady FPS playing in the beta on the Viking side in faction PvP, and a good 140 people on my screen at once. I can't show you any personal footage as the game's beta phase is still under NDA, but Mark Jacobs himself actually jumped in with us and streamed it, so here's some of his. So far the combat is very nice, although there's a lot of tweaking that needs to be done as expected. I can say that if you're looking for a game to back though, for the price of $60 to get into the testing phases they have during the week, I don't think you'll be sorely disappointed. Just be sure to keep in mind that there will be many more wipes over the course of this testing phase, along with it not being open 24/7. If you're good with that though, I can definitely recommend checking it out right now. So here's where it gets pretty fun for me, and also tough, because most of these games are pretty heavy hitting and it's always hard to gauge where they would fit in on the list. If you feel at any point that a game deserves to be higher or lower on the list, be sure to let me know in the comments. I'd love to know your thoughts on it and why. Coming in at number 3 is Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen. Being developed by Visionary Realms on the Unity engine, and featuring Chris Perkins on the design team as well as Brad McQuaid currently serving as CCO for Pantheon, alongside being the co-creator of EverQuest. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. Pantheon seeks to target a particular audience looking for what made those old school MMORPGs like EverQuest good. The type that gave the players the freedom to find their own path in the vast virtual worlds, accompanied only by their guilds, knowledge, and will to survive and thrive. This primarily PvE-based MMORPG features strategic tab targeting combat to supplement its overall challenging content. It puts you in a world without bounds, without guidelines. The road to go down is in your hands, although if you pick the wrong one, it'd probably get you killed. Pick from 12 different classes, all with unique playstyles and abilities alongside 9 different races with incredibly awesome backstory / design. This is a game that has evolved greatly over the course of its development. After being unable to reach its goal in its first Kickstarter, Pantheon refused to bow down and give up. After a hard 3 years since its Kickstarter in 2014, Visionary Realms announced that Pantheon completed Series A funding, allowing them to further develop the game alongside expanding their development team. I had a very hard time finding out how much exactly the game has received from pledge packages, but it is a highly anticipated game that does feature a great deal of backers and is determined to keep at it until they deliver us an innovative MMORPG old school feel that a lot of us have been craving. This one is currently only in pre-alpha, but has had coverage from a good amount of content creators, some of which are very well known, such as Carnage, others like Fever, Doc God Game, The Hive Leader, Dress, Koopa Troopa, Lassus, Jim Lee, and more, including the community stream they did recently, which was an awesome thing to see. It's safe to say this game has definitely done a great job at extending its reach to the gaming community, and I cannot personally wait to see how the future holds for this one. If you're interested at all in Pantheon, I highly recommend checking out some gameplay videos alongside the graphics comparison from when it was first back in Kickstarter all the way to now, showcased by Moonsteak. I've also watched some of these videos and interviews myself in my first Mead Hall Research podcast, where I research details about games with my small community. If you're interested in that at all, I'll have a link for that along with the others in the description as well. All in all, if you're looking for a good PvE-based MMORPG with a great social aspect and freedom for the players in terms of questing, exploration, and combat, I'd say Pantheon would certainly be a great fit for you. Coming in at number 2 is a game I've personally been following since 2016 and started backing in 2017 as well, When Star Citizen, Ashes of Creation, and this game were all the great majority of the crowdfunders were flocking to, this is the one I put whatever I could spare from my work paycheck every 2 weeks that didn't go into bills on. And I'm sure you can guess what it is from my name. That's right, I'm talking about Chronicles of Elyria. The game I didn't need to do research on because for the longest time I was knee-deep in developers' journals, active on the Discord and Reddit answering questions and learning what I could, when I could, and praying for the game's arrival. Chronicles of Elyria is a persistent open-world medieval sandbox MMORPG, in development by Soulbound Studios featuring Jeremy Walsh at its head. In Chronicles, your character ages. It doesn't feature a traditional subscription model. Your playtime is determined by what's called a spark of life. That could last up to 6 months even if you're careful with it. What I mean by that is your playtime will be set in stone when you use it, but your character dying extinguishes it quicker and quicker, like a more extreme version of Mabinogi's aging system. On top of that, your character's nobility standing will increase the rate at which it extinguishes. So if you unfortunately find yourself inside someone's sex dungeon as a duke and start getting spawn camp, for example, I'm afraid you could lose your spark in the span of a day. Don't worry, by the way, you don't have to worry about that happening, unless you're into that. As far as I remember, there should be a spirit realm in which you can traverse to resurrect at a shrine. There's so many different mechanics you can go into with Chronicles, such as the race system, which dictates where you live, what the buildings in society look like, from the hardened cave-dwelling domains of the dwarves to the hive-minded, all-sharing, and we are the world tribe of the weird. I'm serious. From what they describe, you'll be sharing your items, your houses, your bathtubs, all kinds of stuff from the weird. One of us type of stuff going on there. Better hide that legendary two-handed Windseeker. There's also the political system, which I compare heavily to the Guild 2 and Renaissance. Highly suggest trying those games out if you have a good week to burn and ever wondered what it'd be like to be a political douchebag in the medieval ages. There are NPCs in the game that will have their own roles and systems. You could issue a contract for an NPC to craft X or buy X once you gather it. They also do that kind of thing themselves as well. The system is very in-depth. Your own character even becomes an NPC after you log out and continue on its path. The settlement develops around you. Villages, counties, duchies, and kingdoms with player characters and non-playable characters to manage them. Picture Crusader Kings 2 in that regard, except you can jump down in there as a count, duke, or mayor, and live in the world real time to build it. Actually, a good comparison, the Guild, Crusader Kings 2, Mountain Blade, and a medieval simulation sandbox all in one is a good way to describe this game. A bit of it. The combat looks like it'll turn out pretty decent, but it's been quite a bit since we've seen anything related to it other than jousting. Game of Joust, here we come. It's certainly one looking into. There really isn't enough time in a day to explain all that's possible with this game. Hopefully a lot of what I've described is actually still planned, considering I haven't kept up with it in like 2 months here. Can only hope the game will actually come out and not go down in flames over time. Now it's time for some honorable mentions. Tough choices to make here. And even though Chronicles, oh god, Chronicles is my jam, there is one that is currently the most anticipated, probably the most looked at that's not Star Citizen, and probably about to be the most tested. That's not Star Citizen. Maybe. Before we begin, I just have to point out, there's me. Can't believe someone uploaded this 3 years ago, but this is one of the most iconic moments I remember in Archeage, and I'll never forget it. The day that we got 50 Shades of smacked down by the Eastern faction, spearheaded by mostly Harmless and Phobia themselves. And that man there, Sorcerer, also known as Steven, would one day create one of the most highly anticipated crowdfunded games right now, Ashes of Creation. Who would've knew? With features like the node system, While the World of Ashes has NPC structures / towns built in real time, players will be able to fight over and take over these settlements to shape the world to their desires. Quests, crafting, harvesting, killing monsters, everything all gets tracked in these nodes and goes towards the development of it. With action combat, sieges, full-fledged dynamic questing system for those that enjoy that, caravans and trading, you know, basically a build-up of all of our MMO dreams. It's no secret why people are so excited for it. Despite the fact that it's heavily crowdfunded, will have a cash shop as far as I remember, and is pay to play. Can't explain how surprised I was when I heard people were actually okay with that, but of course it's Ashes of Creation. For those of you with the lust in your blood, this game also does feature a great deal of PvP. Castle sieges, city defense / assault, the ability to assault those caravans we mentioned earlier alongside arena combat. Speaking of arena combat, this game is currently going into Alpha 1 a quarter early, and at the moment they're currently in stress test mode, but after Alpha 1, testers will be testing out arena mode without NDA before it's open to the rest of the public that are registered on the Ashes of Creation website. It'll be open to registered users during the course of its development as alpha testers, beta testers, and release gets rotated in. Be sure to sign up on their website if you're interested in trying it. Highly recommend checking out some of their Alpha 1 combat to give a little insight to how the game is currently. Also be sure to join their Discord if you're in need of any questions or concerns being answered. I'll leave a link in the description below for that as well. That'll have to do it for this list. These are all the games that surely seem like they're worth trying, and some of them I'm just praying beyond praying actually get released, such as Chronicles. Again, if you have any thoughts on the games in this list, be sure to comment below. I'd love to know your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful night or day. Farewell.